it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for November 2024. So on November 25th, we have our last energy event of the month, which just happens to be Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, how it is that we express ourselves, going retrograde at 22 degrees in Sagittarius energy. So first of all, I am going to recommend, if you haven't already, to download that November energy guide according to your zodiac sign. If you've already downloaded the guide and been working through it, I'm going to kind of ask you to reflect back upon when Mercury first moved in to this Sagittarius energy. We had a lot of big ideas at that time, a lot of big plans. We were definitely having a lot of epiphanies, but because Mercury's going retrograde, we have to retrace our steps. We have to reflect, we have to revise, we have to rearrange in order for us to kind of, again, piece together where it is that we're at and get aligned, mind, body, and soul. So Mercury's going to be retrograde from November 25th and at 22 degrees, which, again, side note, we came into this year with Mercury coming out of his retrograde at this 22 degree in Sagittarius energy. We are going to be retrograde until December 15th, and we're going to go direct at 6 degrees in Sagittarius energy. So thus why, when we had Mercury first moved into the Sagittarius energy, I asked you to capture what your focus was on, what really needed your attention, where the big ideas, the aha moments, the epiphanies were coming from, because we were going to have to revisit these topics and themes through Mercury's retrograde. So of course, we entered into the pre-retrograde zone November 7th. That's when things started kind of slowing down in the mental plane, where we started questioning some things, if you will. And as we gain closer proximity to the 25th, again, the mind space, the lower level intellect getting slower and slower and slower. I like to describe Mercury's retrograde as being drugged, or in a drunken slumber, if you will, because our inhibitions are kind of lowered. We aren't thinking clearly. We are kind of at the mercy of our intuition, and therefore there is a lot of experiences that are going to create confusion and delusion, and we aren't going to be able to piece together what absolutely needs to be done until Mercury comes out of said retrograde. So we have a little bit of a review. Now, again, I am a huge fan of retrogrades, although they're not fun, although they're not pleasant for many people. It is the universe's way of giving us a little bit of a break, a little bit of a pause in order to catch up. Again, when Mercury is direct, we're just moving on, moving forward. We're pushing the boundaries of our comfort zone. We're moving on to the next thing. We're kind of in survivor mode at that particular juncture. The retrograde energy puts a pause on our ability to kind of move on and move forward, especially with new thoughts, new ideas, new big plans, in order for us to allow the mind, body, soul equation to catch up. And of course, coming out of Scorpio season, where there was this death, ending, and closure to our soul and our spirit, this resurrection, this renewal to our soul and spirit, we have changed. Therefore, a lot of the things that we were percolating on, excited about when Mercury first entered into the Sagittarius energy, they're going to no longer carry that excitement, no longer have a high vibration, no longer be something that we want to do, that we want to pursue. So very important why we kind of capture what is going on in the present moment and use those particular energy guides that I've created as the resources to kind of reflect upon, revisit at particular points in times like this. So, of course, in Sagittarius energy, it's the truth, it's the philosophies, it's the greater, grander picture, it's the deeper meaning, deeper purpose to life, to why it is that we have to go through what it is that we're going through. And of course, when it comes to communication, there's no filter. It is very blunt, very straightforward, very in your face with a lot of verbal vomit. And because we are just kind of in exploration and experimentation mode with new thoughts, new ideas, with kind of making some adjustments and improvements in our day-to-day life, there's this rapid processing that just gets, I'm going to say, distracted, that gets caught up, that gets stuck in a loop, if you will. And we can definitely find ourselves all over the place, not only with Mercury in the Sagittarius energy and correct, but definitely going to add an extra level of delusion and confusion now that he's going retrograde. Keep in mind, Mercury going retrograde in the Sag energy is in a direct opposition to Jupiter, who rules over the Sag energy, who happens to be retrograde over in the Gemini energy that Mercury rules over. So this is called mutual reception. When the leaders, or the gods, if you will, the power placements switch signs, sit across from each other. And of course, Jupiter is here to expand our mental plane, to expand on certain thoughts and ideas, certain perspectives, if you will. But he's retrograde, so there's a lot of looking back at information, at wisdom, at knowledge that we failed to integrate, that we're failing to put into practice. We also have these two squaring Saturn, the Lord of Karma, in this Pisces energy, trying to dissolve some of the boundaries in our physical realms, some of the limitations in our belief system, in our headspace. We have to clear this space out. We have to clean the slate in order to build something new, especially with new inner dialogues, inner narratives, with different perspectives, different ideas that are going to kind of help us make some progress in a new path, in a new direction. So typical Mercury retrograde, we want to watch out for miscommunications. We want to watch out for, let's call it, mishaps with transportation. We want to watch out for, again, verbal vomiting and creating a little bit of a shit show that doesn't need to be there. We are going to see past aspects and elements resurface because, of course, we've leveled up. We have a new level of awareness, a new level of consciousness that we're operating from, which means that we have the ability to look at old situations and circumstances with a bigger, broader perspective, with a deeper meaning and purpose, with those rose-colored glasses, if you will, to pluck out the silver linings and to see where it is that, again, we have to adopt the attitude of gratitude for some of these pains, traumas, situations, and circumstances that weren't easy. Why? Because it's pushing us into our power. It's pushing us into a new level of awareness, a new level of enlightenment, and that is what all of this is about. So, of course, with the Sag energy, we were very focused on the big picture, on the long-term dream, goal, and vision that we 100% want to do, want to pursue, want to manifest, the potential of the future in which we are currently conjuring up. But because this is a retrograde, we may have to reconsider those plans, that dream, that goal, that vision, and this plan, the strategy that we had in order to actually get there. This is a time to look back. This is a time to review. This is a time to definitely take a good look at where we can breathe new life into old projects, especially old chapters of education, old studies, if you will, anything to do with communication. So, writing projects, could be podcasting, if you will. Communication is a thing. Just the way that we kind of interpret our inner realm and how we express that outwardly. And so although the Sag energy has us all ADHD squirrel brain and we're kind of jumping from one thing to the other, kind of scatterbrained all over the place, yeah, it's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of mental pressure. There's going to be a lot of mental anxiety, a lot of mental confusion and delusion. However, this is going to help us to see where it is that, again, we're refining the goal, the vision, the dream. And because Jupiter is in play here over the Sagittarius season, over the Sagittarius energy that Mercury is retrograding in, well, again, Mercury, ruler over the Gemini energy that Jupiter is retrograde in, this is going to magnify a particular area of your life. Check your chart. And again, if you're doing the work in the energy guides, you're going to have a good idea on where the soul contract of your particular zodiac sign is kind of being influenced by this particular energy. We have to be cautious of our tone, of our communication, of our expression, of our wording. And that is a very hard thing to do with A, Mercury being in Sag energy, period, especially B, being retrograde. The chances of confusion and delusion and misunderstanding and misinterpretation is super, super high. And again, we're not thinking clearly. We aren't really interpreting the information, the details from our physical realm in the way that we normally would. We're losing losing track of time. We're losing track of our, let's call it, plans. And there's just a lot of rushing. It is a fire sign. So there is a lot of heat, a lot of pressure. There's a lot of urgency. And that in itself is going to really set us up for small, silly accidents if you are not careful. So depending on what you're actually reflecting back on, what you're revisiting, what you're returning to as far as past projects go, or, creative projects or relationship dynamics, whatever it is from the past that's coming back to regain your time, energy, and attention, it's going to be super useful to, again, stop, observe, especially the 2 or 3 days prior to Mercury going retrograde, the 3 days that follow Mercury's retrograde, and of course, when Mercury is going to station direct there in December, the 3 days before he goes direct and after he goes direct, that's usually when we see the bulk of the topics and themes, the chaos that we are going to be focused on through that particular retrograde transit. So this is a time for us to kind of, again, test the boundaries of our mental plane, of our communication styles, of our understanding of old ideas, of old education. And on December 5th, we're actually going to have Mercury, who will be retrograde at that time, align with the sun in Sagittarius. So this is going to be a chasmy where the mercurial energy is combust by the sun, and that is going to bring a huge spotlight, a huge illumination to the mental plane at that time, to our thoughts, to what is asking for our time, energy, and attention. And it's going to be a very favorable time for epiphanies, for processing, again, situations and circumstances at an accelerated rate in order for us to push the boundary zones of our comfort, of our ideas, of our understanding, of our perspective, of our inner dialogues, of our inner narratives. It is going to be a super good energy to identify the existing problems, to do something about them, to flip the script in the most positive of ways. So of course, it does come with its challenges, what doesn't, but again, at the same time, this should be viewed as a gift, as a pause, as a time out from the cosmos in order for us to get aligned with this new version of self, and therefore the new goal, the vision, the dreams that this new version has for the future.